Maya Torres sat in the corner of the massive conference room aboard Meridian Station and watched the alien council members argue about system upgrades for the third hour straight. The half-elf engineer kept her pointed ears low and her dark eyes focused on the holographic displays that showed the station's power grid efficiency ratings. The reptilian Saurian commander Zerathik slammed her clawed hand on the metal table and hissed at the ethereal, luminary counselor Valandra, who floated several inches above her ornate chair. The mongrel speaks too much about things she cannot understand, Zerathik said while gesturing dismissively toward Maya. Her hybrid blood makes her think like a human, but act like an elf. She belongs in neither world and understands less than both. Valandra's translucent form shimmered with cool blue light as she turned her attention to Maya. The child thinks her 5 years of service grants her wisdom. She has not earned. Her elven heritage is diluted by human rashness, and her technical proposals lack the patience of true understanding. Commander Lisa Kane sat at the head of the table and felt her jaw tighten as she listened to the alien council dismiss her best engineer. Once again, the human woman had worked with Maya for years and knew the young woman's capabilities better than anyone in the room. Maya has increased our system efficiency by 40% in the past year alone, Kane said firmly. Her hybrid nature allows her to process information faster than pure humans, while maintaining better focus than most elves. I have reviewed her proposals, and they are The Saurian commander showed her sharp teeth in what might have been a smile among her species' human sentiment. Clouds your judgment, Kane. The girl may work quickly, but speed, without wisdom, leads to disaster. Our military protocols have protected this alliance for decades. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but kept her voice steady when she spoke. My analysis shows that our current grid configuration has 17 critical vulnerabilities that could be exploited by any advanced enemy force. The upgrades I propose would eliminate these weaknesses, while reducing power consumption by 12%. Veldra S. form pulsed with dismissive purple light. Crude human thinking wrapped in elven arrogance, she declared. Your people build things quickly and break them just as fast. True engineering requires the patience of centuries, not the rushed solutions of short-lived species. The half-elf engineer had heard similar words countless times since joining the station's technical staff. Her human adoptive parents had raised her on Earth after her elven mother died in a transport accident. Maya never knew her elven father, and sometimes wondered if that made her less of both species rather than Morty. Arlena Vasquez, the station's chief xenobiologist and Maya's closest friend, leaned forward from her seat. Maya's hybrid processing speed allows her to see patterns that others miss. Her proposals deserve serious consideration rather than dismissal. Based on her heritage, Arthic turned her cold reptilian gaze toward Alina. Humans defend their pet elf because they share the same emotional weaknesses. Logic demands that we trust proven methods over experimental ideas from someone who belongs fully to no species. Maya stood up slowly and gathered her data tablets. The council chamber fell quiet as all eyes turned toward the young engineer. Her mixed heritage made her taller than most humans, but shorter than pure elves. Her dark hair held subtle hints of the silver that marked elven bloodlines, and her green eyes carried flecks of gold that seemed to glow when she felt strong emotions. I will return to my workshop, she said quietly. My duty is to maintain the systems that keep this station operational. If the council prefers to ignore technical recommendations, then I will focus on my assigned tasks. The half-elf engineer walked toward the exit while the alien council members watched her leave. Valandra's voice followed her toward the door. Perhaps the mongrel finally understands her proper place, the luminary said, with cold satisfaction. Some wisdom can be taught even to those who lack the breeding for it. Maya paused at the threshold, but did not turn around. She had learned long ago that responding to such comments only gave her tormentors more ammunition. Instead, she continued walking through the corridors of Meridian Station toward her private workspace. The massive orbital facility housed over 50,000 beings from a dozen different species. Maya had spent 5 years learning every system and subsystem that kept the station operational. She knew the power grid better than anyone, including its original designers, but the Alien Council treated her like a junior technician rather than the chief engineer. She had worked to become Elena, caught up with Maya in the corridor, and matched her quick pace. "Don't let them get to you," she said. "The council members are afraid of change, and your ideas threaten their comfortable assumptions." Maya shook her head, Elena, but did not slow down. "Fear would be understandable," she replied. "Prejudice is something different. Entirely, they dismiss my work because of what I am, rather than evaluating what I can do." The xenobiologist had studied dozens of species during her career, and understood the complex social dynamics that governed interspecies relations. "Your hybrid nature makes you a living reminder that their pure bloodlines are not superior," she said. "That threatens their sense of identity." The two women reached Maya's workshop, located deep in the station's technical section. The large room contained banks of computers, quantum processors, and holographic displays that showed real-time data from every system. Aboard Meridian Station, Maya had designed most of the monitoring equipment herself, using a combination of human engineering principles and elven pattern recognition techniques. Maya activated her workstation and pulled up the grid analysis she had been developing for months. The data showed clear inefficiencies in the current power distribution system, along with several critical vulnerabilities that could be exploited by hostile forces. Selena studied the displays over Maya's shoulder. "These improvements could revolutionize how we manage station resources," she said. "Why does the council refuse to even consider them?" "Because they came from me," Maya replied simply. "If Zarathic or Valandra had proposed the same upgrades, the council would have approved them immediately. My heritage makes my ideas suspect regardless of their technical merits." The half-elf engineer had grown up feeling caught between two worlds. Human society accepted her, but she always felt too different to truly belong. Elven communities acknowledged her bloodline, but considered her too human to be trusted. Maya found her greatest satisfaction in technical work, where her hybrid abilities allowed her to excel. Her enhanced processing speed let her analyze complex data patterns faster than pure humans, while her elven intuition helped her see connections that escaped purely logical thinking. The combination made her exceptionally good at systems engineering, but it also made her unique in ways that others found uncomfortable. Maya worked late into the station's night cycle, refining her proposals and developing contingency plans for scenarios the council refused to consider. Alina stayed with her friend, providing moral support and helping with calculations that required biological expertise. The xenobiologist watched Maya work with fluid grace, moving between multiple displays and processing streams of data simultaneously. Few beings could handle such complex multitasking, but Maya's hybrid brain seemed designed for exactly this type of work. "You should rest," Alina said, eventually. "Your body needs sleep, even if your mind wants to keep working." Maya saved her progress and shut down the displays. "I will sleep," she said, "but first I want to review the long-range sensor data. Something has been bothering me about the readings from the outer system." Lena frowned. "What kind of readings?" Maya pulled up the sensor logs and highlighted several anomalies. "Ships that appear and disappear too quickly to get detailed scans," she said. "Energy signatures that don't match any known technology. Small disturbances that could be scouts or probes." The xenobiologist studied the data with growing concern. "Have you reported this to Commander Kane?" Maya nodded, but admitted, "I mentioned it during today's meeting, but the council was too focused on dismissing my grid proposals to pay attention to potential threats." Alina realized that Maya's hybrid nature might be detecting patterns that others missed. "Your enhanced senses might be picking up things that normal sensors cannot identify clearly." The half-elf engineer looked at her friend with worried eyes. "That is exactly what concerns me," she said. "If something is out there, and the council refuses to listen, then Meridian Station could be in more danger than anyone realizes." Maya finally shut down her workstation and prepared to return to her quarters. The day's frustrations weighed heavily on her shoulders, but she refused to let prejudice stop her from doing her job. Tomorrow she would continue working on improvements that might save lives, even if the Alien Council preferred to mock her heritage rather than evaluate her ideas. The corridors of Meridian Station hummed with quiet activity as Maya walked through the residential section. Her hybrid hearing picked up conversations in a dozen different languages, while her enhanced eyesight noticed details that pure humans would miss. Maya had spent years proving herself through hard work and technical excellence, but she still faced the same prejudices that had followed her since childhood. The Alien Council saw her mixed heritage as a weakness, rather than recognizing it as the source of her unique abilities. As she reached her quarters, Maya wondered if she would ever find true acceptance among the species that populated the galaxy, or if she would. The alarm klaxons woke Maya from restless sleep 3 hours before her normal shift began. The half-elf engineer rolled out of bed and reached for her uniform while emergency lights bathed her quarters in pulsing red. The station's automated systems were broadcasting priority alerts in multiple languages. Maya's enhanced hearing picked up the subtle changes in Meridian Station's background hum that indicated the defensive grid had activated automatically. Her hybrid senses detected stress patterns in the vibrations that suggested something serious was approaching the facility. She ran through the corridors toward the command center, passing other crew members who looked confused and worried. The emergency broadcasts provided little information beyond instructions to report to duty stations and prepare for possible evacuation procedures. Commander Kane stood at the central display console studying long-range sensor data. When Maya arrived, the human woman looked tired and concerned as she tracked multiple contacts moving toward Meridian Station from the outer system. Maya approached the command station and studied the sensor readings. The approaching ships showed energy signatures unlike anything in the Alliance databases. Their movement patterns suggested advanced propulsion systems and sophistication in jamming equipment. Known contacts bearing 27 Mark IV. Kane reported without looking away from the displays. Initial scans indicate at least 30 vessels of varying sizes. They appeared at the edge of sensor range approximately 1 hour ago, and have been accelerating steadily toward our position. Maya examined the tactical data and felt her stomach tighten with worry. The approaching fleet showed signs of coordinated movement and electronic warfare capabilities that exceeded most known military forces. Their ships seemed designed for one purpose: destroying orbital installations like Meridian stations. The Alien Council members arrived in the command center within minutes of the alert. Zarathic wore her ceremonial battle armor, while Valandra's ethereal form pulsed with agitated orange light. Both council members immediately began demanding status reports and tactical assessments. The reptilian commander studied the sensor data with cold efficiency. Saurian military doctrine requires immediate defensive positioning, she declared. Our battle fleet should move to intercept these intruders before they reach weapons. Renjivlandra disagreed with typical Luminari arrogance. Rushing into battle without understanding the enemy is precisely the kind of human thinking that leads to disaster, she said. We should raise our energy shields and attempt communication before taking aggressive action. Maya watched the tactical display and recognized attack patterns that neither council member seemed to understand. The approaching ships were using electronic countermeasures designed specifically to disrupt orbital defense systems, their formation suggested. They had detailed intelligence about Meridian Station's capabilities. Commander Kane, these vessels are using coordinated jamming techniques, Maya said quietly. They appear to be targeting our communications array and sensor network first. The human commander nodded grimly. What does that suggest about their intentions? Maya highlighted several data points on the display. This is not a diplomatic mission, she said. These ships are configured for siege warfare against fixed installations. Their approach vector and electronic warfare patterns indicate they plan to isolate us before launching a direct assault. Sir, Thek turned her predatory gaze toward Maya. The mongrel thinks she understands military tactics better than trained warriors. she said dismissively. Her hybrid confusion leads to panic rather than proper analysis. The Saurian commander activated her personal communication device and began issuing orders to the station's defensive fleet. Move our ships to standard intercept formation, she commanded. Prepare all weapon systems for immediate engagement. Upon target acquisition, Maya felt frustration building in her chest as she watched Zerathik implement exactly the wrong tactical response. The approaching enemy clearly expected standard military doctrine and had designed their attack to counter conventional defensive strategies. Valandrin began powering up the station's Luminari-designed energy shields while dismissing Maya's technical concerns. The ethereal being's form glowed with confident blue light as she spoke. Pure Luminari engineering will protect this facility better than hybrid theories and human panic, she declared. Our shields have never failed against any known weapon system. Maya studied the incoming ship's energy signatures and realized they were using adaptive technology that could analyze and counter fixed defensive systems. The enemy fleet was specifically designed to overcome exactly the type of static defenses the council members preferred. Kane, I recommend we implement dynamic defensive protocols, Maya said urgently. The approaching ships appear to be using artificial intelligence systems that can adapt to conventional tactics. Ruthek hissed with irritation. The child speaks of things beyond her understanding, she said. Military victory requires discipline and proven strategies, not experimental ideas from someone who belongs to no proper species. The first wave of enemy ships reached the outer perimeter of Meridian Station's defensive grid and immediately began deploying electronic warfare systems. Maya watched in growing alarm as the station's communication array started experiencing systematic interference. The enemy vessels moved with mechanical precision that suggested artificial intelligence control rather than biological crews. Their ships coordinated perfectly to create overlapping fields of electronic disruption that began degrading the station's sensor capabilities. Elena arrived in the command center carrying data tablets filled with her analysis of the approaching threat. The xenobiologist had been studying the enemy ship's unusual energy signatures and biological scan results. These vessels show no life signs, she reported to Commander Kane. They appear to be completely automated with artificial intelligence systems controlling all functions. Maya felt a chill of recognition as she processed this information. An enemy force composed entirely of artificial intelligence would be immune to psychological warfare and capable of perfect coordination. The approaching ships represented exactly the type of threat her grid proposals had been designed to counter. Zurath dismissed Elena's findings with typical arrogance. Automated ships are inferior to crews with proper military training, she declared. Our experienced pilots will easily outmaneuver mechanical opponents. The reptilian commander's confidence proved premature as the first engagement began. The station's defensive fighters moved to intercept the enemy scout ships, but found themselves outmaneuvered by artificial intelligences that could calculate optimal flight paths faster than biological reflexes could respond. Maya watched the tactical display with growing dread as Saurian pilots fell victim to AI systems that predicted their every move. The enemy ships used swarm tactics and electronic warfare to systematically eliminate the station's fighter screen. Veldra's energy shields activated around Meridian Station, creating a shimmering barrier designed to deflect incoming weapons fire. The Luminari counselor's form pulsed with satisfied purple light as she observed her defensive systems. Engaging our shields will hold against any assault, she declared confidently. Technology represents thousands of years of development and cannot be overcome by crude mechanical devices. The enemy fleet responded to the energy shields by deploying scanning systems that analyzed the barrier's frequency patterns. Maya watched in horror as the artificial intelligence systems began calculating methods to penetrate or disable the Luminari defenses. Commander Kane looked increasingly worried as reports flooded in from across the station. The enemy's electronic warfare was systematically degrading communications between different sections while their scanning systems mapped every detail of Meridian Station's defensive capabilities. Maya realized that the approaching enemy represented exactly the type of adaptive threat her hybrid nature allowed her to understand. The artificial intelligence systems were learning from every defensive measure the station deployed and developing countermeasures in real time. Hoff engineer approached Commander Kane. With desperate urgency, these ships are using learning algorithms, she said. They adapt to whatever defenses we deploy, which means static strategies will ultimately fail. Heroic turned toward Maya with cold reptilian fury. The mongrel spreads panic and defeatist thinking, she hissed. Proper military discipline requires confidence in proven methods, not surrender to hybrid fear. As Maya felt her temper flare but forced herself to remain calm, the enemy ships are analyzing our defensive patterns, she said. If we continue using conventional tactics, they will eventually overcome every system we deploy. Valandra's ethereal form shimmered with dismissive energy. The child underestimates the superiority of Luminari engineering, she said. No artificial system can match the perfection of our energy manipulation techniques. The first enemy ships began their assault on Valandra's shields, using precisely calibrated energy weapons that matched the barrier's frequency patterns. Maya watched in growing alarm as the supposedly impenetrable defenses started showing signs of stress under the adaptive bombardment. Alina moved closer to Maya and spoke quietly. Your analysis appears correct, she whispered. The enemy systems are definitely learning and adapting to our defenses. Maya nodded grimly while studying the tactical displays. The approaching fleet represented her worst fears about conventional defensive thinking. The alien council's reliance on static strategies and proven methods made them predictable to artificial intelligence. Systems designed to overcome exactly such approaches. Commander Kane began receiving reports of systems failures throughout the station as the enemy's electronic warfare intensified. The artificial intelligence attackers were systematically disabling communications, sensors, and defensive coordination systems. Maya realized that Meridian Station faced destruction unless someone implemented the adaptive defensive protocols she had designed. Her hybrid nature allowed her to think like both human and elf, combining logical analysis with intuitive pattern recognition in ways that might counter the enemy's learning algorithms. The half-elf engineer looked around the command center at the alien council members, who continued to implement failing strategies while dismissing her warnings in minutes rather than hours. Their conventional approaches would collapse under the enemy's adaptive assault, leaving 50,000 station inhabitants defenseless against artificial intelligence systems designed for systematic extermination. Maya Torres understood that time was running out for everyone aboard Meridian Station, including those who mocked her heritage while refusing to consider her solutions. The enemy fleet launched their main assault at exactly 14 minutes past the hour, and Maya watched from the command center as everything the alien council trusted began failing systematically. The artificial intelligence ships deployed virus programs that spread through Meridian Station's computer networks, like digital plugivildra energy shields, flickered and died as the enemy's systems found their resonance frequency and applied precisely calculated interference patterns. The Luminary Counselor's ethereal form turned pale with shock as her supposedly perfect defenses collapsed under mechanical analysis. Impossible, she whispered, while staring at the tactical displays. Our shield technology has protected worlds for millennia's Arathek S fighter. Squadrons fell back toward the station in disarray as artificial intelligence opponents outmaneuvered every tactical formation the Saurian military doctrine provided. The reptilian commander's clawed hands gripped her command console while she watched her pilots struggle against enemies that predicted their every move. The station's defensive systems began shutting down and cascading failures as enemy virus programs spread through the network. Maya recognized the attack pattern from her worst-case scenario analysis, but the alien council had dismissed her warnings as hybrid paranoia. Commander Kane looked around the command center with growing desperation as status reports flooded in from across the facility. The enemy's digital assault was crippling everything from life support systems to weapon arrays. Sections report critical system failures, Kane announced grimly. The enemy virus is spreading faster than our security protocols can contain it. Maya felt her hybrid senses screaming warnings as she analyzed the enemy's attack patterns. The artificial intelligence systems were using adaptive algorithms that evolved faster than conventional defensive measures could respond. Her elven intuition, combined with human logical thinking to reveal the true scope of the threat. Alina approached Maya with a data tablet filled with analysis of the enemy ships. These artificial intelligence systems show learning capabilities that exceed anything in our databases, she reported. They are literally evolving their attack methods in real time. Half-elf engineers studied the data and realized that conventional thinking could never defeat enemies that adapted faster than biological minds could develop new strategies. The station needed dynamic defenses that could evolve as quickly as the attackers. Maya watched as another section of Meridian Station went dark when enemy virus programs corrupted its control systems. The alien council members continued issuing orders based on military doctrines designed for predictable opponents. Rather than learning mechanism, commanded her remaining fighters to implement emergency combat protocols while Valandra attempted to restore her energy shields using backup power systems. Both council members refused to acknowledge that their methods were failing against an enemy designed to counter exactly such approaches. The command center's displays showed the enemy fleet moving closer to the station, while their virus programs continued spreading through every network connection. Maya realized that the artificial intelligence attackers would achieve complete system control within minutes if no one implemented adaptive countermeasures. Commander Kane, this station will fall unless we change our defensive approach, Maya said urgently. The enemy systems are learning faster than we can deploy new static defenses. Sarathek turned toward Maya with desperate fury. The mongrel offers criticism while warriors die, she hissed. If the hybrid has solutions, then let her speak instead of spreading defeatist panic. Maya felt a surge of determination as she realized the council members were finally willing to listen to her proposals. The enemy's success had forced them to consider alternatives to their failing conventional strategies. Need access to the central grid control system, Maya said firmly. My adaptive defense protocols can counter the enemy's learning algorithms, but only if I have complete authority over all station systems. Veldra S-form pulsed with alarmed orange light. You cannot possibly manage the complexity of an entire orbital facility, she protested. The grid control system requires coordination between dozens of specialized subsystems. Maya had spent 5 years learning every detail of Meridian Station's infrastructure, and her hybrid processing speed allowed her to handle computational loads that would overwhelm purely biological minds. My analysis shows that the enemy virus programs exploit the boundaries between different system categories, she explained. If we integrate all defensive measures under unified control, then the artificial intelligence attackers cannot predict our responses. Commander Kane looked at the failing tactical displays and made her decision. Maya, you have full authority over all station systems, she announced. Do whatever is necessary to save this facility. The half-elf engineer ran from the command center toward her workshop while the station's automated systems continued shutting down around her. Maya's enhanced senses picked up the subtle vibrations that indicated critical infrastructure failures spreading throughout the facility. Elena followed Maya through the corridors while emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. The xenobiologist understood that her friend was attempting something unprecedented by taking control of systems designed to operate independently. Maya reached her workshop and immediately began implementing the adaptive defense protocols she had developed during months of theoretical analysis. Her hybrid nature allowed her to process multiple data streams simultaneously, while maintaining intuitive awareness of overall patterns. The half-elf engineer connected her workstation directly to Meridian Station's central grid and felt the full complexity of the facility's systems flowing through her consciousness. Her enhanced processing capabilities expanded to encompass power distribution, life support, communications, and defensive networks. Lena watched in amazement as Maya's fingers moved across multiple control interfaces with fluid grace, processing streams of data that would overwhelm normal biological minds. The xenobiologist realized she was witnessing abilities that transcended both human and elven capabilities. Maya began deploying her adaptive algorithms throughout the station's network infrastructure. Her defensive programs used the same learning principles as the enemy virus, but with one crucial difference: they were guided by hybrid intuition that could anticipate changes before they occurred. The artificial intelligence attackers immediately recognized Maya as the primary threat to their assault, and began focusing their most sophisticated virus programs on her position. The enemy systems attempted to isolate her workstation and corrupt her defensive algorithms. Maya felt the digital assault like physical pressure against her consciousness as enemy programs tried to overwhelm her hybrid processing capabilities. She responded by fragmenting her awareness across dozens of system nodes, making herself impossible to target with conventional attack methods. The station's power grid began stabilizing under Maya's control as she rerouted energy flows around damaged systems and implemented redundant pathways that the enemy virus could not predict. Her adaptive algorithms evolved faster than the artificial intelligence attackers could develop countermeasures. Elena monitored Maya's vital signs while her friend battled the enemy's digital assault. The xenobiologist watched stress indicators that suggested Maya was pushing her hybrid capabilities beyond normal limits. Your neural activity is approaching dangerous levels, Elena warned. You need to reduce the processing load before you suffer permanent damage. Maya shook her head without looking away from her displays. I can handle the computational stress, she said, but added quietly, the enemy systems are more sophisticated than I expected. The half-elf engineer began integrating systems that had never been connected before, using her hybrid intuition to identify patterns that pure logic would miss. She turned waste recycling systems into communication networks and transformed cargo bay controls into sensor arrays. Maya's adaptive defenses began pushing back against the enemy virus programs as her unified approach eliminated the system boundaries. The artificial intelligence attackers had been exploiting her defensive algorithms, learned from each attack, and developed increasingly sophisticated countermeasures. Commander Kane's voice came over the communication system. Maya, whatever you are doing is working, she reported. The enemy's advance has stopped, and some of our systems are coming back online. The half-elf engineer felt satisfaction as her defensive network gained strength, but she knew the artificial intelligence fleet would adapt to her countermeasures unless she could maintain the evolutionary advantage. Her hybrid nature allowed her to think like both logical human and intuitive elf, but the enemy systems were learning her patterns. Maya began tracing the enemy's command signals back through their communication networks, using techniques that combined human technological innovation with elven pattern recognition. Her adaptive algorithms followed data streams that led toward the enemy fleet's control center. Lina watched the displays with growing excitement as Maya's defensive network not only stopped the enemy assault, but began actively hunting the artificial intelligence systems. The half-elf engineer was turning Meridian Station itself into a weapon that could strike back at their attackers. Maya felt her consciousness expanding beyond the station as her adaptive programs infiltrated the enemy fleet's networks. Her hybrid processing capabilities allowed her to maintain awareness of both local defensive systems and remote offensive operations simultaneously. The artificial intelligence attackers found themselves facing an opponent that evolved faster than their learning algorithms could adapt. Maya's defensive network used hybrid thinking that transcended the logical parameters. The enemy systems were designed to counter 23 minutes after the enemy's main assault began. Maya Torres had transformed from dismissed engineer to the station's primary defender. Her adaptive defenses were not only protecting Meridian Station, but actively hunting the artificial intelligence fleet that had seemed unstoppable. Moments earlier, Maya's adaptive defense network evolved beyond anything she had originally designed as her hybrid consciousness, expanded through every system aboard Meridian Station. The half-elf engineer found herself simultaneously controlling power distribution, life support, atmospheric processors, waste management, communication arrays, and weapon systems. Her enhanced processing capabilities allowed her to perceive the entire orbital facility as a single living organism with thousands of interconnected subsystems that could be coordinated for purposes there. Designers never imagined Maya began using cargo bay doors as communication relays and transforming water recycling pumps into signal amplifiers. Lena watched the displays in her friend's workshop with growing amazement as Maya demonstrated abilities that transcended both human and elven limitations. The xenobiologist monitored vital signs that showed unprecedented neural activity levels, while Maya's consciousness interfaced directly with the station's infrastructure. You are processing more data than any biological mind should be able to handle, Elena warned with concern. Your hybrid nature is remarkable, but it has limits, Maya responded without looking away from her control interfaces. My elven intuition guides the patterns while my human logic manages the details, she said. The combination allows me to see solutions that neither species could achieve alone. The artificial intelligence fleet recognized Maya as their primary threat and began deploying their most sophisticated attack programs, specifically designed to overwhelm individual minds. The enemy systems launched coordinated assaults against her workstation, while simultaneously trying to corrupt the adaptive algorithms she had distributed throughout the station. Maya felt the digital pressure like waves crashing against her consciousness, but her hybrid nature allowed her to fragment her awareness across hundreds of system nodes. The enemy virus programs found themselves attacking empty network connections, while her real presence flowed through pathways they could not predict. Commander Kane's voice came over the communication system, with reports of remarkable system recoveries throughout the facility. Sections that had been completely dark were coming back online with enhanced capabilities that exceeded their original specifications. Maya, you have somehow improved our defensive grid beyond anything we thought possible, Kane reported with amazement. Power efficiency has increased by 30% while system response times have decreased by half. Half-elf engineer had integrated systems that operated independently for decades, creating synergistic effects that multiplied the station's capabilities. Her adaptive network learned from every component and shared improvements across all connected systems. Zarthek arrived in Maya's workshop, still wearing her battle armor, but with a different expression than the dismissive arrogance she had shown earlier. The reptilian commander studied the displays that showed Maya simultaneously managing dozens of complex operations. The mongrel controls more systems than our entire engineering staff, the Saurian admitted reluctantly. How does hybrid thinking accomplish what trained specialists cannot? Maya turned briefly from her workstation to address the council member. My mixed heritage allows me to process information like a computer, while understanding patterns like an artist, she explained. Neither pure human nor pure elf thinking could handle this complexitive. Villandrin's ethereal form materialized in the workshop, glowing with uncertain purple light as she observed Maya's unprecedented control over the station's infrastructure. The Luminary Counselor had spent centuries believing in the superiority of pure bloodlines, but was witnessing capabilities that challenged her fundamental assumptions. The artificial intelligence fleet began focusing their most powerful weapons on Maya's workshop, as they realized conventional virus attacks could not overwhelm her hybrid consciousness. The enemy ships redirected their main assault toward her position, while their learning algorithms developed new strategies specifically designed to target her unique abilities. Maya felt the physical impact as enemy weapons began striking the station's hull near her location, but her integrated defensive network responded instantly. Weapon arrays throughout the facility coordinated their fire, while shield generators activated in precise sequences that maximized protection. Alina helped coordinate physical support for Maya's extended consciousness interface, bringing nutrient supplements and monitoring equipment to ensure her friend could maintain the unprecedented mental effort. The xenobiologist understood that Maya was pushing hybrid capabilities into uncharted territory. The half-elf engineer began using systems in ways their designers never imagined, transforming maintenance robots into mobile sensor platforms and converting environmental controls into early warning networks. Maya's consciousness flowed through every circuit and pathway aboard Meridian Station. Her adaptive algorithms detected the enemy fleet's command structure and began tracing their coordination signals back to the source. Maya realized that the artificial intelligence ships operated under centralized control, which created a vulnerability. Her distributed awareness could exploit the station's defensive systems evolved under Maya's guidance as her hybrid intuition identified weaknesses in the enemy's attack patterns. Her network learned faster than the artificial intelligence systems could adapt because it combined logical analysis with creative pattern recognition. Maya began using Meridian Station itself as a weapon system, coordinating cargo transporters, waste disposal systems, and atmospheric processors to create interference patterns that disrupted the enemy fleet's communications. Her consciousness expanded beyond the station as her adaptive programs infiltrated the artificial intelligence network. Commander Kane watched from the command center as Maya's defensive grid achieved something impossible by conventional military thinking. The enemy fleet that had seemed unstoppable was now retreating from coordinated attacks launched by systems never designed for warfare. Alina monitored Maya's expanding consciousness with growing concern as her friend's awareness stretched across light years of space through network connections that linked Meridian Station to the enemy fleet. Maya's hybrid processing capabilities were approaching theoretical limits, but showed no signs of degradation. The artificial intelligence attackers found themselves facing an opponent that evolved faster than their learning algorithms could compensate. Maya's adaptive network used creative thinking that transcended the logical parameters the enemy systems were programmed to understand. Zareth studied the tactical displays with professional appreciation for Maya's unprecedented coordination of defensive and offensive operations. The reptilian commander realized she was witnessing military capabilities that exceeded anything in Saurian doctrine. The hybrid demonstrates strategic thinking that surpasses our most experienced commanders, she admitted to Commander Kane. Her coordination of multiple system types creates tactical advantages that conventional military training cannot. HFY's ethereal form pulsed with reluctant admiration as she observed Maya's integration of technologies from different species into unified defensive networks. The Luminary Counselor had believed pure bloodlines were necessary for advanced capabilities, but was witnessing hybrid thinking that exceeded anything her people had accomplished. Maya felt her consciousness touching the edge of the enemy fleet's central command system as her adaptive programs followed data streams through the artificial intelligence network. Her hybrid nature allowed her to understand both the logical structure of their coordination protocols and the creative patterns that governed their tactical decisions. The half-elf engineer realized that the enemy's artificial intelligence was remarkably sophisticated, but ultimately limited by purely logical thinking. Maya's combination of human innovation and elven intuition allowed her to anticipate changes that the mechanical minds could not predict. Lena watched Maya's vital signs with growing alarm as her friend's consciousness expanded beyond anything recorded in biological literature. The half-elf engineer was demonstrating hybrid capabilities that seemed to transcend the normal limitations of biological minds. You are interfacing with systems across interplanetary distances, Alina warned. Your neural activity is approaching levels that could cause permanent damage. Maya nodded acknowledgement, while maintaining her connection to the expanding network. I understand the risks, she said, but added with quiet determination, the enemy's central command system is within reach. The artificial intelligence fleet began implementing desperate measures as Maya's adaptive network penetrated deeper into their coordination protocols. The enemy systems deployed isolation procedures designed to protect their command center, but her hybrid thinking found creative pathways through their logical defenses. Maya Torres had transformed from dismissed engineer to a consciousness that spanned star systems. Her hybrid nature allowing her to achieve integration between biological intuition and technological capability that neither human nor elf could accomplish alone. The alien council members who had mocked her heritage now watched in amazement as she single-handedly defeated threats they could not comprehend. Maya's consciousness reached the heart of the enemy fleet's command system and found the central artificial intelligence that coordinated their entire assault. The hybrid engineer discovered that the mechanical mind was sophisticated, but ultimately predictable because it relied entirely on logical analysis without creative intuition. Her adaptive algorithms surrounded the enemy command system like digital predators, using hybrid thinking that combined human innovation with elven pattern recognition. The artificial intelligence tried to defend itself using isolation protocols, but Maya's consciousness flowed through pathways that pure logic could not anticipate. Elena monitored her friend's vital signs with growing concern as Maya's awareness expanded across interstellar distances. To engage the enemy directly, the xenobiologist watched neural activity levels that exceeded anything in medical literature, while Maya maintained control over both local and remote operations. Simultaneously, the enemy's central command system began experiencing cascade failures as Maya's adaptive network exploited vulnerabilities in its logical structure. Her hybrid nature allowed her to think like both engineer and artist, finding creative solutions that transcended the mechanical limitations of artificial intelligence. Commander Kane watched from the command center as the artificial intelligence fleet suddenly stopped their coordinated assault and began displaying erratic movement patterns. The enemy ships that had moved with perfect precision now showed signs of confusion and communication breakdown. Maya, whatever you are doing is working, Kane reported over the communication system. The enemy fleet appears to be losing coordination, and several ships are already retreating from our position. Maya felt the enemy command system collapse under her adaptive assault, as hybrid algorithms overwhelmed the artificial intelligence with creative chaos that pure logic could not process. The mechanical mind that had seemed so sophisticated was ultimately limited by its inability to understand intuitive thinking. Though half-elf engineer began the careful process of withdrawing her consciousness from the enemy network while maintaining control over her expanded defensive systems. Her awareness slowly consolidated back toward Meridian Station but remained distributed across integrated networks she had created. Lena helped coordinate Maya's return to normal consciousness while monitoring for signs of neural damage from the unprecedented mental effort. The xenobiologist was amazed that her friend had successfully interfaced with systems across light years of space without suffering apparent harm. Maya opened her eyes and looked around her workshop with satisfaction. The displays showed that Meridian Station's integrated defensive network remained fully operational under her control, while the enemy fleet continued their retreat toward the powder systems. Arthek entered the workshop with Valandra, both alien council members, looking subdued and thoughtful. The reptilian commander and ethereal counselor had witnessed capabilities that challenged their fundamental assumptions about hybrid limitations and pure bloodline superiority. The mongrel has accomplished what our combined military forces could not, Zarathik admitted reluctantly. Her tactical coordination exceeded anything in Saurian. Dr. Neveldra,'s translucent form pulsed with reluctant respect as she addressed Maya directly. Your hybrid thinking demonstrated capabilities that transcend the limitations we attributed to mixed heritage, she said. The integration you achieved between different system types exceeds pure luminary engineering. Maya stood up from her workstation and felt the continuing connection to Meridian Station's expanded defensive network. Her consciousness remained linked to hundreds of systems that now operated with unprecedented coordination and efficiency. Commander Kane arrived in the workshop, accompanied by several senior staff members who wanted to understand how Maya had accomplished the impossible. The human commander looked relieved, but also concerned about the implications of Maya's expanded control over Station. "Operations Maya, you saved 50,000 lives, Kane," said with gratitude. "But we need to discuss the current situation. Your adaptive network now controls virtually every system aboard this facility." The half-elf engineer nodded, understanding the concerns that her unprecedented authority might create. "I can maintain the integrated network or return systems to independent operation," she said. "The choice belongs to the station command." Structurizerath studied the tactical displays that showed Maya's defensive network actively monitoring the retreating enemy fleet while simultaneously coordinating routine station operations. The reptilian commander realized that conventional military thinking could never achieve such comprehensive system integration. The hybrid has created defensive capabilities that exceed anything our individual species could accomplish. The Saurian admitted your adaptive network should remain operational for future protection. Velendra agreed with unusual humility for a Luminari counselor. "The integration you achieved demonstrates that mixed heritage can produce superior results." She acknowledged your continued control over these systems would benefit all inhabitants. Maya felt a surge of satisfaction as the alien council members who had dismissed her heritage now recognized the advantages of hybrid thinking. Commander Kane stepped forward with an official announcement that formalized Maya's new status. "Maya Torres, I hereby promote you to Chief Systems Engineer, with full authority over Meridian Station's integrated defensive network." Kane declared, "Your hybrid capabilities have proven essential to our survival." Elena smiled with pride as her friend received the recognition she had earned through exceptional ability, rather than political maneuvering. The xenobiologist understood that Maya had fundamentally changed how the station operated by proving that cooperation between different approaches produced superior results. Maya established new protocols that required technical evaluation of defensive strategies before political considerations could influence implementation. She created systems that would prevent future councils from dismissing innovations based on the heritage of those who proposed them. The half-elf engineer maintained her connection to the integrated network, while delegating routine operations to specialized teams. Her hybrid consciousness could monitor overall patterns, while allowing others to handle detailed implementation of her coordinated systems. Commander Kane called a meeting of the senior staff to discuss the implications of Maya's defensive innovations. The human commander wanted to ensure that the lessons learned during the crisis would improve future preparedness, rather than being forgotten after the immediate threat passed. Maya addressed the assembled officers and council members with quiet confidence. The enemy artificial intelligence systems demonstrated that conventional thinking has limitations. She said future threats will require adaptive responses that combine different approaches, rather than relying on single species. Dr. Nesarathek acknowledged that Saurian military traditions needed modification to address enemies that could learn and adapt faster than biological minds could develop new strategies. The reptilian commander agreed to integrate Maya's adaptive principles into future tactical planning. Velendra committed Luminari resources to supporting Maya's integrated defensive network while admitting that pure bloodline thinking had prevented her people from achieving similar coordination. The ethereal counselor agreed to share advanced technologies that could enhance the hybrid systems. Elena observed the profound changes in attitude among species representatives who had previously dismissed hybrid capabilities. The xenobiologist realized that Maya's success had challenged fundamental assumptions about genetic purity and cultural superiority. Maya spent the following weeks training other engineers in adaptive network principles while maintaining overall coordination of the integrated systems. Her hybrid nature allowed her to teach both human logical thinking and elven intuitive pattern recognition. The station's defensive capabilities continued improving as Maya's adaptive algorithms learned from routine operations and developed new optimization techniques. Her network evolved, constantly becoming more efficient and responsive while maintaining the creative flexibility that had defeated the artificial intelligence assault. Commander Kane received reports from across the facility indicating that Maya's integrated approach had improved virtually every aspect of station operations. Power efficiency increased, while maintenance requirements decreased, and communication systems operated with unprecedented reliability. Maya established research programs designed to explore the potential of hybrid thinking in other applications. Her success with defensive systems suggested that combining different species approaches could produce innovations in fields ranging from medical treatment to scientific research. The half-elf engineer, who had been dismissed as a mongrel with confused loyalties, had become the most essential person aboard Meridian Station. Her hybrid heritage that the Alien Council had considered a weakness proved to be the key to capabilities that transcended what any pure bloodline could achieve. Lena watched her friend coordinate complex operations with fluid grace while maintaining personal relationships that crossed species barriers. Maya had proven that belonging to multiple heritages could create strength rather than confusions. Wrath and Valandra began collaborating on projects that combined Saurian tactical thinking with Luminari technological innovation, following Maya's example of integration rather than competition. The former council rivals discovered that their combined approaches produced better results than either could achieve. Alone, Maya Torres looked out at the stars from her expanded workshop and felt satisfaction with the changes she had achieved. The station that once dismissed her heritage now depended on her hybrid abilities, while the species that had mocked her mixed bloodline sought to learn from her integrated thinking. The half-elf engineer had found her place not by choosing between human and elf identity, but by demonstrating that her combined heritage created capabilities neither species could achieve independently. Maya had proven that the future belonged to those who could integrate different approaches rather than those who insisted on genetic or cultural purity. Commander Kane approached Maya with reports of other facilities requesting assistance with implementing adaptive defensive networks. The success at Meridian Station had attracted attention throughout the Alliance as military leaders recognized the advantages of hybrid thinking. Maya smiled as she considered the implications of expanding her integrated approach to other installations. Her hybrid nature had been dismissed as a limitation, but was proving to be exactly what the galaxy needed to face threats that conventional thinking could not overcome. The mockery had lasted only until the crisis revealed the true value of hybrid capabilities. 23 minutes of chaos had transformed Maya Torres from dismissed engineer to the architect of a new approach to interspecies cooperation and technological innovation.